Some call him a genius, others call him dangerous. But whether you love him or hate him, one thing is certain: Tom MacDonald has changed the rules of hip-hop. Without a record label, without mainstream radio, without industry support, he became one of the most viral rappers on the planet, using nothing but his words, his camera, and the power of the internet. With songs like Fake Woke People So Stupid and Snowflakes, Tom has built a career out of controversy, tackling politics, culture, and society head-on. His music sparks debates, ignites arguments, and inspires millions who feel their voices are ignored. But behind the tattoos, the headlines, and the viral music videos is a story of struggle, addiction, survival, and independence. This is more than just the story of a rapper. This is the story of an underdog who refused to be silenced. Welcome to the journey of Tom MacDonald, the independent voice. Tom MacDonald was born on September 21, 1988, in Vancouver, Canada. From the beginning, his life was far from ordinary. As a kid, Tom was creative and energetic, but he also faced struggles growing up in a world where fitting and never seemed to come naturally. He turned to music early, writing rhymes and finding comfort in expressing himself through words. But before he ever made his mark in rap, Tom had another career path. In his teenage years, he became a professional wrestler known as All-Star, performing in Canada's independent wrestling circuits. Tom learned what it meant to live on the road, face crowds, and push his limits. Yet beneath the spotlight of wrestling and the dream of fame, Tom was battling demons. He struggled with alcohol addiction and depression, fighting an internal war that nearly consumed him. At his lowest points, Tom questioned whether he could survive, let alone succeed. Those years of pain would later become the fuel behind his music. His lyrics, raw and unfiltered, reflected the hardships of a man who had walked through darkness and fought to climb back. The stage was set. Wrestling had given him discipline, struggle had given him perspective, and soon, Tom MacDonald would channel it all into a new career, one that would shake the foundations of the music industry. Before the world knew him as a rapper, Tom MacDonald was chasing a different dream. Under the ring name All-Star, he performed in small wrestling promotions across Canada. Inside the squared circle, Tom stood out tall, athletic, charismatic. Wrestling gave him a taste of showmanship, the adrenaline of live performance, and the discipline of relentless training. But behind the curtain, something was missing. Wrestling was exciting, but it wasn't fulfilling his deeper need to express himself. As he traveled the wrestling circuit, Tom began to write more. Poetry, rhymes, and lyrics filled his notebooks. He was already living with the struggles of addiction and depression, and music became a way to process those battles. Slowly, his passion began to shift. Wrestling wasn't the end goal, it was just preparation. Tom realized he wanted to reach people, not with a body slam, but with his words. By the late 2000s, he made the decision to step away from wrestling and focus fully on hip-hop. It wasn't easy leaving behind a career, starting over with no industry connections. But Tom was used to fighting uphill battles. Armed with a pen, a microphone, and raw determination, he began recording independently. These early years would lay the foundation for one of the most unconventional careers in modern rap. Tom MacDonald spent years grinding in the underground, crafting songs that barely reached beyond his circle of friends. But everything changed in 2017. That year, he released a track called Dear Rappers. It was raw, it was direct, and it was fearless. Tom spoke openly about his frustrations with the rap industry, the glorification of money, drugs, and excess, and asked why artists weren't addressing real issues. The song went viral. For the first time, millions of people were listening. Some praised his honesty, calling him the voice hip-hop needed. Others mocked him, dismissing him as an outsider. But one thing was clear: Tom MacDonald had arrived. From that moment, Tom leaned fully into what made him different. He wasn't going to copy mainstream trends. He was going to speak his truth, no matter how uncomfortable it made people. Songs like White Boy and Haluvit pushed him further into the spotlight. He was unpolished, controversial, and unapologetic. And while many in the industry ignored him, Tom was building something powerful, a loyal fanbase that saw him as a rebel. someone unafraid to say what others wouldn't. Tom MacDonald had found his voice, and that voice was about to get louder. By 2019, Tom MacDonald was no longer just an underground name. He was a viral force and independent rapper with a growing army of supporters and critics. His song White Boy had already stirred debates. But then came People So Stupid, Fake Woke, and Snowflakes. Each track hit harder than the last, tackling politics, cancel culture, media bias, and social division. The formula was simple, but effective: a catchy beat, razor-sharp lyrics, and topics that everyone had an opinion on. His music videos, directed by his partner Nova Rockafeller, were bold and cinematic, made on tight budgets, but with maximum impact. Mainstream radio ignored him. Music magazines dismissed him. Yet, his YouTube uploads racked up millions of views overnight. His fanbase, calling themselves the Hangover Gang, grew stronger with every release. For many, Tom became a voice of frustration, someone willing to say the unsayable. For others, he was a provocateur, cashing in on controversy. But no matter which side you were on, one thing was undeniable: Tom MacDonald was everywhere. He wasn't just making songs, he was making cultural flashpoints. Every track was a spark, and the internet was the fire. With fame came fire. For every fan that praised Tom MacDonald as fearless, there was another who labeled him as divisive, dangerous, or even opportunistic. His critics argued that songs like White Boy and Fake Woke oversimplified sensitive issues, sparking division instead of unity. Music journalists often dismissed him, calling his lyrics clickbait rap designed to stir outrage. But Tom didn't back down. In interviews, he insisted he was only saying what millions of people already felt, but were too afraid to express. For him, rap wasn't about pleasing the industry, it was about telling the truth, even if it made people uncomfortable. Meanwhile, fans doubled down. The Hangover Gang defended him fiercely online, buying his albums directly and sharing his music when major platforms wouldn't. To them, Tom was more than an artist, he was a symbol of independence and free speech. The controversies only fueled his momentum. Each backlash made headlines. Each viral debate pulled in new listeners. Love him or hate him, Tom MacDonald had mastered the art of being impossible to ignore. While most rappers dream of signing record deals, Tom MacDonald took the opposite path and proved it could work. From the start, Tom rejected offers from major labels. He didn't want executives telling him what to say, how to look, or when to release his music. Instead, he and Nova Rockafeller, his longtime partner and collaborator, built everything themselves. They filmed all of his music videos in their home or in rented spaces, with Nova behind the camera directing every shot. They recorded, produced, and edited without a massive studio budget. And most importantly, they sold directly to fans, shipping physical albums and merchandise out of their own living room. Tom owned his masters. He controlled his message. Every dollar made came straight from the audience that supported him. This business model gave him freedom to release music whenever he wanted, freedom to tackle controversial topics without censorship, and freedom from the politics of the mainstream industry. By staying independent, Tom MacDonald not only kept his voice unfiltered, but he also built one of the most successful careers of any unsigned rapper in the world. In a digital age dominated by labels and streaming giants, Tom and Nova proved that, with the right vision, you can turn independence into empire. Behind the tattoos and viral headlines is a man with struggles, love, and purpose. Tom MacDonald has been open about his battles with alcoholism, depression, and anxiety. At one point, he nearly lost himself to addiction, but music became his lifeline. Writing and rapping gave him a way to channel pain into power. At the center of his journey is Nova Rockafeller. More than just his partner, Nova has been his creative backbone, directing every video, producing music, and building the Hangover Gang alongside him. Their relationship is both personal and together they've created one of the most successful independent artist teams in the world. Philosophically, Tom sees himself as a truth teller. He believes the role of an artist isn't to follow trends, but to challenge them. His lyrics often push boundaries, forcing listeners to confront uncomfortable realities. For Tom, independence isn't just about business, it's about freedom. the freedom to say what he believes, the freedom to stay authentic, and the freedom to prove that you don't need the industry to make an impact. His philosophy is simple but powerful. Speak your truth, own your work, and never let fear silence you. Tom MacDonald's legacy is still being written, but his mark on the music industry is undeniable. From a Canadian kid with a dream to an international figure stirring debates, Tom has proven that independence can compete with and even surpass the mainstream. He's shown artists around the world that you don't need a record label to go platinum, and you don't need industry approval to be heard. His music continues to spark conversations, sometimes divisive, sometimes unifying, but always impossible to ignore. For millions of fans, Tom isn't just a rapper, he's a voice for those who feel silenced, overlooked, or misunderstood. As he moves forward, one thing is certain: Tom MacDonald will keep speaking his truth, no matter the cost, and in doing so, he's carved out a space in hip-hop history that belongs only to him. This is the story of Tom MacDonald, the independent rebel who turned controversy into art and pain into power.